Hey, what's up, yo? It's Noga2 here with a new video haul. First of all, as always, I want to thank everyone who's taken the time to watch my video and post a comment. I know it's been a while since my last haul video, but I originally started this, for those of you who have watched, doing these videos, trying to cultivate my son's enthusiasm to become a YouTuber as his career choice. I'm a little surprised he hasn't started doing videos yet. He says he wants to be the next Dan TM, and I'm not going to even front. I didn't know who Dan TM was, but for those of you that don't know, he apparently is the number one YouTuber on the internet, and he has the most subscribers and has the most gross income from his channel, if you can believe what's on the internet. They say he makes about 16 million a year with his channel, which I think is just fantastic and amazing. We were at his school near one of the last days, and it was like dress up day or something like that for whoever you wanted to dress up as, and some kid had dyed his hair blue a little bit, and when I picked my son up, I asked him who that kid was supposed to be, and he kind of sarcastically like, "It's Dan TM," and I'm like, "Who's Dan TM?" And he kind of explained to me that he's a YouTuber, and I looked it up, and I was like flabbergasted. I have seen him watching his videos. He's some dude that basically does a lot of videos with him playing Minecraft. but anyway, so he still hasn't done any YouTube videos. He's made a few appearances in my videos, but I've had fun doing these comic hauls, so I thought I would keep going. I've got a lot of books. I don't think I've made a video since before Free Comic Book Day. So I'm going to show you comics that I have. Some of them will be intermixed with different prices because I did get them on different days. So on Free Comic Book Day, I went out of town for the first time to this store, and usually my old comic store that I would go to, they went out of business. The guy retired, so I had to find a new one, and I really haven't found what I would consider an LCS because there's not really a true LCS near me. So I do get my monthly comic pull from online. But this shop I do go out of town to for really back issues. It's probably got more back issues in one store that I've seen outside of like Mile High in Midtown, New York, in actual Midtown. But they have tons of books. They have regular sales. They have lots of dollar books. But this year was the first time I've actually been there for new Free Comic Book Day. And I was a little disappointed about the Free Comic Book Day. I do kind of understand from a business side, being a business owner myself, where they stamp their books with their store's logo and information for Free Comic Book Day. They are giving it to you for free, and they pay about a quarter a book or a dime a book. So but I would have rather had unstamped books. My previous store never stamped their books, and so I guess I got kind of used to that. But irregardless, I did pick up free comics on that day. But I also mainly went for their sale, which on Free Comic Book Day, all the dollar books are 50 cents. So these are the books that I picked up for 50 cents. I've been trying to do a run of Marvel Age, at least a good portion of it. I'm not sure if I'm going to buy all of the Marvel Age issues in the hundreds, but at least very much so in the very early run. So I found this, which I've never seen in a while myself, Marvel Age #1 for 50 cents. Got 2 copies of that. I thought that was a great deal for 50 cents. I mean, I bought 2 because that's all they had, but I definitely would have paid $1 for it to begin with. Marvel Age #2, which technically predates the first issue of Alpha Flight. So in some reality, you can argue that this is the first appearance of Marina and Puck instead of Alpha Flight number 1. They didn't have number 3, but they did have number 4. Number 5, I previously had found this before at a different sale, but I'll show it since I'm kind of filing these books away. And this was Marvel Age number 6 that I'd gotten before for $1, actually at the same location. And this has the first appearance, really, of Peter Porker, Spider-Ham on the back. There's an advertisement on the back cover for Peter Porker. And then I got number 9, again for 50 cents. 11. I went back to that same store a week ago, and they actually had a 30-cent sale, which was fabulous. And I got number 13 for 30 cents. And I had 14 in my own collection already. And then they had 15 for 30 cents, which was great deal. I had a run already of Marvel Age in my own collection, and I'll show those since I've got them out filing. Number 16, real quick, 18, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 33, 34, 35, 6, 40, 41, 42, 43. So I had a good run of that already in my collection. This one was damaged, so I will have to pick that up. But I used to get a pull service from Westfield Comics. I don't know if any of you remember that, but remember that service. When I was a teenager, where I grew up, there wasn't a lot of comic shops there, and so I would buy them from Westfield Comics. You had to mail in your order. This was predating internet, right? And Westfield gave you these for free with their subscription. And I'd thumb through it and not really take good care of them, and actually didn't even bag and board these when I initially had them, because as a teenager I would save my boards and bags for True Comics, and so some of them I am surprised they're as minty as they are, considering that they weren't bagged and boarded for a long time. But again, that's majority of those I had gotten personally as a freebie for my collection subscription service. I did find this for 30 cents. This was in my collection, 59. This was 30 cents. Again, mine collection. Got this for 50 cents. This was a 30 center. 30 cents. 30 cents. And 30 cents. Whether you like him or hate him, I do like John Byrne's artwork. Got this at a previous sale for $1. Same for these, $1 and $1. Got this for 30 cents. I didn't know if I had it in my collection already, but I did. So I have 2 now. Same for this here, Marvel Age, annual number 1. I couldn't recall if mine was in mint shape or not, so I picked it up for 30 cents. But I'd already had some pretty crispy copies in my own collection. Number 2, annual number 3, and a couple copies of that. And then I did pick this up, which is a Great Arthur Adams cover, number 4, and I got this for 50 cents. So some of the Marvel Ages can be worth a little bit of money. Everybody knows 41 is the money book with Stan Lee on the cover. Some more comics from 30-cent sale, because again, these are kind of intertwined together because I have not filed these away. But I pick these up every time I see them. I like getting these, the Millennium Edition, Man of Steel. That's in high grade mint. And then Mad number 1. Alright, so next I'm going to do kind of some cover runs that I've been trying to complete. Probably my favorite artist that I collect the most of is Adam Hughes. And I will pick up just titles that I have multiple copies of already. One day, if I decide to sell them online, I'll put them together in lots. But Fairest, number 27, kind of a classic looking Adam Hughes. Watchmen, before Watchmen, number 2, Dr. Manhattan, number 1, also Adam Hughes. This is a second copy for me, except this is in higher grade. This is Legion number 35, one of his more famous covers. X-Men Classics 71 and 72. Again, I got all of those for 30 cents a piece, which is a great deal. Now, this comic here, I just actually got this yesterday. I'd gone out of town for work, and I went to a store for the first time, and they have tons of dollar books. They have some sorted area back issues, fairly large selection of back issues, and I've been looking for this book. It's not a very valuable book for Adam Hughes, but one that I have looked for a long time in the wild, but it doesn't go for very much on the internet. But I didn't want to buy it on eBay, and that's Legionnaires number 13, the kind of innuendo cover by Adam Hughes with the toothpaste. I'm sure you guys can figure it out. I paid $1.75 for that, which I thought was a great deal. I would have easily paid $5 for that at the most, just because I don't find that in the wild very often. And same for this. I paid $1.75 for that. Adam Hughes, Legionnaires number 7, also something I don't see in the wild very often. This comic I bought is kind of a little hot right now. Wonder Woman number 18, first appearance of Siseri. And I paid $3 for that comic, which I thought was a decent deal for what it goes for. These next comics I got all for 50 cents on Free Comic Book Day at that sale I mentioned before. Wonder Woman 35. And these are all in pretty high grade. 42. Number 50. Great George Perez art. 52. 53. 54. 56. And 57. So 50 cents, I thought, why not? That's a great deal. These next books I also got for, these were 50-cent books. And I just got that for the cover. I have a copy of that already, but 50 cents, I thought, why not? These next books are Michael Turner covers, which I thought were great. The late Michael Turner. Fantastic Four 544. He did a cover run. You got a couple of those. Again, 50 cent. They had most of it. There's some that were missing. A couple that were missing. 545. 546 was missing. But I thought he did a great job on the FF covers. Got two of those. 548. 549. 550. 51. But they didn't have 52. They had 53. And then these I got for 30 cents. This was a run he did on Superman. A 12 Action Comics. 626. What's funny is this comic I paid 30 cents for. And the shop had bought out a comic store and had the store was some store called Paradise Comics. And I don't know why, but they had a sticker price on the bag for $12 for this comic, and it's nowhere near worth $12. There's no way I would have paid $12 for that comic at any point in time. 30 cents, yeah, I'll pay 30 cents for that. And then 202, which I really like. And then here's another Michael Turner cover. Silver Surfer in my name. I think he did a great Silver Surfer. Also for 30 cents, I got Incredible Hulk number 12, first appearance of Devil Hulk. 2 copies. They're in high grade mint, near mint. For 30 cents. I got these two. I'm trying to get all of the covers of Gen 13 number 1. One of the very typical Image gimmicks back in the 90s, where the first issue of Image of Gen 13 had 13 covers. Many of you know that initially they were going to call themselves Gen X, but then Marvel stepped in and threatened lawsuit, cease and desist, and so they changed it to Gen 13, and the rest is history, I guess. So this is number 1. This is Gen 13 takes on Manhattan Avenue is what that's supposed to represent. They did a lot of homage covers, and this is Gen 13 number 1, a homage to Vertigo. Some of these are hard to find in the wild. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you know some of the famous ones like the Pulp Fiction homage. I've got probably maybe, I want to say maybe 6 of the 13 covers. I'm still trying to find them out in the wild and not resort to eBay because I don't really collect Gen 13. And so, but I do think trying to collect the first issue, the 13 issues, which, there's tons and tons printed, the covers, I'd just like to have in my collection. I bought this solely for the collection cover. This is a Todd McFarlane Marvel Tales 231. He did a cover run on Marvel Tales, and when I see him for cheap, and 30 cents is cheap, I'll pick it up if it's in good condition. They had a couple of the other ones that he did, but they were beat up, and so I was like, even for 30 cents, I wasn't buying it. They don't really go for a lot anyway. This is a comic I picked up because I've never seen it in a while. I've shown it in another video by different artists. Prophet number 1 by Jim Lee. There's a Prophet number 1 by Todd McFarlane, and then obviously Rob Liefeld's cover. But I've never seen this one before by Jim Lee, so I thought I'd pick it up for 30 cents. Kazar number 1, 30 cents. Got this, the Jack of Hearts number 1. I have the whole series, but this was a near mint copy, and for 30 cents, I figured why not buy it for 30 cents. That's what I was saying a lot during that sale. For 30 cents, would I leave it there for $1 or 30 cents? Definitely not 30 cents. Here's another gimmick from the 90s, 1994, Superman Man of Steel. So this is in the poly bag, which I don't think you can tell. But what it is the cover is kind of this plastic cover, and inside of it are stickers that you can do it yourself on the cover. And so they have multiple stickers of Superman and Lobo in that. I've got several of these copies. They're not worth much. It probably is $1 book, to be honest. But for 30 cents, I figured I'd pick that up. It went along with this series called Worlds Collide, when their milestone emblem merged and characters met the DC universe. So like Icon and Static, and they would meet the DC universe. And so this is what the cover looks like out of the bag. So they had 3 of them, and they were all 30 cents. And this one was unbagged. This is what the comic looks like unbagged. It's a wraparound cover, and the stickers are like this. So you have all these stickers of like Superboy, Hardware, Icon, Static, Superboy, Prime, Steel, and they're supposed to be fighting in the book. And then you can place the stickers and move them around and make your own cover, which, is, again, one of the 90s gimmicks, right? So, but for 30 cents, I was like, hey, why not? About this for 30 cents, I have multiple copies of this already, but this was in pretty high grade, and it's kind of a little bit of cardboard stock, and it's all black cover. There's like one spine tick right here. But for 30 cents, Flash 100, I figured that I'd buy that. They had these for 30 cents. These are all in near mint condition. Pretty crisp. There's one spine tick right there. Very light spine tick. I don't know if you can see it there. Right there. But that's the only one that had a spine tick, and it was newsstand edition, so I'm sure it was in some carousel somewhere and someone bent it over. But 3 copies, first appearance of Rose Wilson for 30 cents each. I thought that was a great deal. And then I got these. These are in high grade near mint. Machine Man #1, newsstand, and 2 copies, 30 cents each. I personally don't really give a flying hoot about newsstand versus direct. I think it's kind of ridiculous that one goes for more than the other. It just is kind of stupid to me. This is Machine Man #2. This is probably in VF condition, VF plus. There's a couple of spine ticks here and here. First appearance of Iron Man 2020. And then I got Machine Man #4. I got 3 copies of that, one newsstand, and these are all in high grade near mint condition. So I'm going to leave it at that, kind of a short haul video as I start to bag and board these comics and Mylars. I'm going to have to order some more Mylars already. I'm actually thinking about doing a road trip, so I might actually pick them up from eGerber myself instead of paying the hundreds of dollars that I pay for shipping, since I order so many in bulk. Actually, I'm going to show you one other thing. So I've mentioned this before, that I've been buying Mylars to slowly replace all my comics in Mylars, simply because the polybag, particularly the older polybags, start to break down and harm the comics. And I don't know if really all of my comics are worth Mylars, because Mylars are probably almost $1 a bag when you count the fullback and the bag itself. Probably a little bit more than $1 a bag. And a lot of my comics, when you think about it, are probably dollar bin finds anyway. So are they really worth the Mylars? But nevertheless, I'm slowly been replacing my collection all in Mylars and fullbacks. Some of them have halfbacks because I had initially bought halfbacks, and but they're just kind of too thin, kind of like the typical backing board, even though they're acid free, and decided I should go to fullback. So, but I didn't go back and replace the halfbacks because a lot of them I did put 2 boards in there, and so by the time I started doing 2 boards to 1 bag, I was like, I should just spend the money on the fullback. But I wanted to show this because this was one of the latest runs that I've done, replacing them in Mylars, and that was this set here. And the reason why I want to show this is because I think it's just awful. It's an awful book. It was an awful title run. This is Rob Liefeld's relaunch of the Avengers. You know, Jim Lee had redone Fantastic Four, which wasn't bad. Will Portico, I think, Portiso, I think his name is Will Porticio. He had redone Iron Man, which was a little bit better. But this relaunch by Rob Liefeld at the time in the 90s was just horrendous. 96. So number 1 and number 2. Number 1 had 2 copies, right? 2 covers, which I fell into the hype and bought both covers. These were in comics were $1.95. That was a $2.95 comic. Number 2, he did this stupid design where he put the bird on his eagle on his forehead, and it was just so dumb. And then the reason why I put this out here is because he only did the pencils for a relaunch for like the first 2 issues. And then it was like he did some covers, but then he didn't do all the covers. And then I'm not really a huge fan of Rob Liefeld. I'm not even sure why people like his artwork. I'll pick up some of his books just because I know they can be worth some money. But I personally think he rips off a lot of people. I do believe that Deadpool is kind of a ripoff of the Terminator. But here's number 3. Some of the covers, they're okay. But I mean, if you look at Thor's hammer, it's supposed to be Thor's hammer, but the handle is like huge, and he redesigned Hawkeye in this comic, and he's got a stupid mask on. I don't even know if it was originally the real Hawkeye. Hulk's got a long hair. He looks like a moron there. Then you have here. That's not a bad cover by Liefeld. I don't know who did this cover here. It may have been Ian Churchill. But again, the artwork is, started being performed by other people interior after only the 3rd issue. And number 7. Number 8, he still has that stupid thing on his head. And then in number 9, he goes back to the classic A. Thor's got this dumb costume on. Then some new guy starts drawing it. A different writer. It is a no wonder that this series did not do well. I don't know if it was Marvel's intention for the Heroes Reborn to only be a 13-issue series for their 3 main titles or 4 main titles. I can't remember how many it was. Avengers, Fantastic Four, Iron Man. I can't remember if there was a 4th one or not. But it was a bunch of crap. I mean, this is a wraparound cover. The story sucked. The art was terrible. The writers changed. If you look, this is now Robinson, Simonson, Rob Liefeld, Jeff Loeb started helping out. just the inconsistency of the writing and the artwork just was not there. The consistency just wasn't there and kept changing. And it was just kind of a perfect example of why shortly thereafter, right, Marvel went bankrupt because of the management and the gimmicks and, you know, I mean, yeah, they let some good talent get away to Image with some of their top writers and artists, with McFarlane and Jim Lee, but I mean, seriously, Rob Liefeld is just not the guy. I mean, that's a nice cover by Jim Lee. But anyway, I thought I'd show that because I'd pull that out as my to rebag and board, and I just totally forgot. I don't even think I read this series. It was so bad, but I had it, and so I think it was from a pull service. Why I ended up getting all of it. So I thought I'd show that. And one last thing, what I do with my comics, when you buy My Light, you get this acid-free board that comes with it with the bags. And the dividers, I think Silver Age Dave had talked about using them in his to divide up the comics, but they're so expensive. I had a few, and you know, there's so many titles. And so what I started doing was, because these boards that come with the My Light 2s are the length of the board with the flap up. So they're longer than the actual comic. So when and also the plastic dividers kind of make the top when some of my boxes stick up. So what I usually do is I cut off a small portion when I put my comics in the box, just so that just this tab shows up in the box like that. And, you know, you get 2 in a pack of My Lights, the front and the back, and it's more than enough to be seen above the comic. It doesn't prevent the top from going down completely like you should. You get them for free with your My Lights that you're buying for your bags, and it serves to divide. And, you know, when things change or what have you, I just think it was an easier way to separate my comics, because I definitely have more titles than dividers initially, but now by using that, I have tons of dividers for my comics. They look nice, and yeah, and they're acid free. So just something I do with my comics. Like I say, when you have them in the box, you can definitely see that just above. Easy to do. Thank you for watching, taking your time. I will probably put up another video in a very short bit as I continue to bag and board. But now I can file these comics away. Peace out.